asked a fantastic question before going in. You see,
Stop me if you've heard this one before.
right. So, as is a regular with guests, Scott asks if Jacob loves the same Kansas City wide receivers. See, as he says, no, I actually hate all the ones you like. And Jacob dropped a truth bomb about the 101 debate with Travis Kelce.
Well, I don't think so. This is just my structural stance on best ball drafts this year. It's not Travis Kelce's fault. It's not Christian McCaffrey's fault. I'm not taking any of either of them. I'm just exclusively taking the four wide receivers off the rip in the first six picks. Except for the very rare circumstances, of course, where I'm at 5 or at 6 and there aren't any of those top four wide receivers left. And it's all about just, I think that the two massive inefficiencies in drafts this year is just the round 2-3 running back prices make no sense. Plus, I always want elite quarterbacks. And Kyle Pitts is the single most mispriced player in the history of best ball. So I'm never taking a player that would preclude me from drafting Kyle Pitts because I always want to be drafting Kyle Pitts.
So this is the only argument I wouldn't contest. I'd be, if that's the argument, if it's, just there's so much value later at these specific positions, I think that's a really good point. To me, that tight end is Darren Waller and not Kyle Pitts. But
I like Waller too. I draft a lot of Waller.
I love Kyle Pitts. My concern with him is we see Bijan Robinson now going mid-round 1. We see Kyle Pitts priced as a top 3 tight end. We see Drake London.
He's not priced as a top 3 tight end.
What is he now?
He's tight end 5.
Top 5 tight end. Drake London is getting out, and that's so much draft capital invested in an Arthur Smith-led offense run by
historically really good offensive
Desmond Ridder. What's that?
A historically very efficient offensive coordinator. Person who led a fantastic offense in Tennessee in a very similar personnel grouping with an elite running back, 2 strong wide receiver weapons, and basically nobody else. They just fit the entire offense around these 3 skill players, got it super condensed, super hyper efficient, wasn't saddled with Marcus Mariota.
Hyper efficient while also throwing the ball at the second lowest rate in 30 years.
And that was
making that worse is Marcus Mariota was the least accurate quarterback in football last year.
And he's gone.
And then Desmond Ridder was even worse, and he was just as bad in college.
All Arthur Smith needs to do to create fantasy gold is to get rid of Marcus Mariota. He did it in Tennessee. He had Marcus Mariota, it was bad. As soon as he got rid of Marcus Mariota, it was good. He's once again rid of Marcus Mariota, and he's leading us to the promised land.
The problem is Desmond Ridder was worse in terms of accurate throws per attempt. And again, I'm not a tape guy, but if you just watch Desmond Ridder's college tape, he is awful. It made me draft a ton of Alec Pierce just because of how awful this guy is. And so I have a hard time. We talk about power law players in fantasy, but there's also power law offenses. Having a 15% target share on the Chargers was more valuable last year than having a 30% target share with the Bears, for instance. And that's how I'm looking at Falcon, or this is at least my concern. It's where I think it's a massively run-heavy offense. And even when they are passing, they are extremely inaccurate. And I love London. I love Pitts. But then those are 2 players competing against each other. And then knowing Arthur Smith, we're probably going to see fucking Mac Hollins or Scotty Miller get 8 targets.
What is this about knowing about Arthur Smith? Arthur Smith led one of the most condensed offenses in the history of football with the Titans. He led an extremely condensed offense last year.
To the
Kyle Pitts. And not just to the running back.
A.J. Brown to an extent.
A.J. Brown and Corey Davis were both top 5 in yards per route run on that offense because everything ran through them. Arthur Smith always arranges these offenses with non-playing characters who are out there trotting around, eating up routes, and he runs at such a high RPO rate that all of his passes are going to first reads. It was the highest rate of RPO passes in the NFL last year in Atlanta, which condenses everything towards the first read because you're not getting a Scotty Miller throw off of a run-pass option. You're going to get it to going directly to Pitts. You're going to get it going directly to London. I'm not that crazy about Drake London's price. I think it's fine. But in terms of Kyle Pitts, and yes, Brian, we are forgetting about Tyler Algier. We're absolutely forgetting about Tyler Algier. Everybody should forget about Tyler Algier until they get to the 13th round and they want to draft a handcuff running back. Then you can remember Tyler Algier. But while this offense is healthy, we can forget about him. People are overreacting to what we saw last year with the Falcons. It was the worst, like you said, second lowest pass rate in 30 years, right? That's That is a catastrophically bad event, which was terrible for last year. That's the exact kind of thing that we shouldn't be projecting going forward. We should not be projecting extreme outliers to beat themselves. I did my Atlanta Falcons projections already. I don't think they're going to pass a lot. I have them for the third lowest pass rate over expectation in the league. It wouldn't surprise me if they're the lowest pass rate over expectation in the league. But I don't think that they're going to be historically bad. I think we're probably going to see them around where the Titans were, which was one of the lower pass rates in the league. But we're going to see a massive condensation of targets around Drake London, Kyle Pitts. And what about the ceiling of where Desmond Ridder is actually decent? He's just even average, right? So it's four NFL starts. You know who else is bad in their first 4 NFL starts? Almost every rookie quarterback in NFL history. I'm not surprised that he was bad at his first 4 NFL starts. I think he can be at least decent. Ryan, if you would like to book a wager on Tyler Algier getting 125 carries this year, barring a Bijan Robinson month-long injury, please send me a DM.
So you're projecting bottom 3 pass rate, but also included in that is going to be a bottom 10 accurate pass percentage because, okay, Ridder only had 4 starts and he was bad, but he was extremely bad in college, in my opinion. He was a really bad prospect. I love Kyle Pitts. The craziest stat I've found is that over the past 2 seasons, Kyle Pitts ranks top 3 among all players in yards per route run from the out wide. He is an elite player. The problem is when you're having him on these outside routes that's not what you want from a tight end. You want a tight end who's basically like a slot wide receiver masquerading as a tight end where he more layup throws where now he's like trying to be the alpha, Devontae Adams beating elite outside CB1s. That's a disadvantage. And Arthur Smith, when he talks about this, he's saying, well, yeah, Pitts isn't showing up in the stat sheet, but he's helping us win games. And like, that's great if you're a fan of the Falcons. It's a little less great if you're invested from a fantasy perspective. And the concern I have too is London last year was better than we've ever seen from Kyle Pitts. He led the league in yards per route run from week 13 on, despite an inaccurate quarterback, despite, low pass volume, by target share, by any stat you want to look at, was freakishly elite. And now Kyle Pitts, who couldn't get it done when Drake London wasn't really burst onto the scene, now has to compete for an ascending with an ascending Drake London.
What else happened in week 13? What happened right before week 13?
Was that the takeover of a new quarterback?
Well, that's one of them, but also
or are you saying Pitts no longer there and condensing targets? Right, right. But
I mean, I think that I like London too. We talked about Drake London like before he was ever drafted. You know how I feel about Drake London, which is very, very positively. I just feel very positive about all these players. I think it's like I have Drake London projected for more targets than Kyle Pitts this year. I have Drake London projected for a 28% target share. I think he's fantastic. Case for Pitts, is really as simple as this. You have a player who was at 26.5% targets per route run, which is like fucking elite if he was a wide receiver. And then has 27% target share, 35% air yard share. That's first among all tight ends, and a 0.645 weighted opportunity rating, which is like borderline alpha wide receiver level. And he plays tight end. So you get basically a DK Metcalf level stat line, and he plays tight end. And then you get to draft him at the 6-7 turn. I just think it's all upside from there. Like, it's barring catastrophic events, him being a massive failure at that price tag would stun me, and him being absolutely insane home run smash would not shock me in the slightest, in the sense that this is a guy that was going at the early third last year, posted better peripheral numbers almost across the board last year than he did the year prior. And all we saw was the downside case of this offense that we should have probably already known existed. But I don't think that the overall bet has changed that much 2022 to 2023, except that we get an insanely lower price where he's going 2 rounds below the wide receiver on his team that he was posting fairly comparable stats to until he got injured.
So I'm not going to continue this debate. I'll instead argue in your favor. Over his last 8 games, including the game he left early due to injury, he had a 30.4% target share. That ranked behind only Devontae Adams and Cooper Kupp. I said last year, and obviously it was wrong, is like he legitimately has, if Calvin Johnson were a tight end type upside that just absolutely breaks fantasy, especially tournament style leagues such as this. One concern is that Kyle Pitts is not yet at full speed. I haven't heard anything regarding his health. That is some concern, but also related to that and the upside argument is that when I was doing my annual post-draft presser review, I heard Arthur Smith say that Pitts was actually going through some things, quote, something along that he was dealing with some things as early as like week 5. So if you want to look at inefficiency, that might have played a role.
I'll also say that I really like Darren Waller's price. I think he's another one of the most mispriced players in the draft. So I agree with you on that. But that's part of why I don't really want, like, I'm so excited to have the privilege of clicking Kyle Pitts or Darren Waller or George Kittle in round 6 or 7.
Yeah, I'm not with you on Kittle, but
it just deeply saddens me when I see a 1 underneath my tight end hole.
I find it hard to believe that you're not in on Kittle with how much you're in on Brock Purdy being like one of your last picks in every draft.
It was his least efficient season since his rookie year. Target share of just like 15% when all of the other receivers were healthy. I don't know.
No, that's fair.
I thought getting up there in age, lots of injuries.
I feel that
it's just like you can't mention him in the same breath as Waller and Pitts, in my opinion.
No, and he's substantially more expensive than them. So I don't take as much Kittle, but
that's crazy.
But I'm way over the market on. I mean, Pitts I think is my second most drafted player, behind only King Nico Collins, and then Darren Waller.
Oh God, Nico Collins,
also one of my most drafted.
When John Mechie's clearly the best wide receiver on the team.
Oh no!
I also draft a lot of Mechie. I mean, I'm coming for the Woods people. Those people are the true detriment to society, but.